Welcome back to Coats in Conversation. I'm your host, Kendrique Coats, a therapist for athletes and couples in Illinois, also the athlete mental health advisor for the Illinois High School Association. In today's conversation, I speak with Wesley Steiner, a standout collegiate athlete who began his career at Auburn University, finished his college career at Washington State University, and now is a professional football athlete. In the beginning of our conversation, we talk about sometimes the struggles athletes have when there are different transitions that happen. So that could be going to different teams, that could be playing different positions, or navigating the changes coaches. We then dive into his experiences growing up, being raised by his grandparents, and the loss of his mother and how he navigated that. He talks about how his faith got him through some of those difficult moments. We then talk about athlete mental health, which is something that I am passionate about. And then later on in the conversation, we talk about some of the things Wesley would like to see change as it relates to athlete mental health. If you're a coach, athlete, or parent, this episode is for you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did having it. Wesley, I first and foremost, I just appreciate you coming on to Coats in Conversation. I know in our last conversation, we're just talking all things football, mental health, overcoming adversity. For you, I know you've been involved with football for forever. So can you take us back to when you first fell in love with the game of football, and what did it mean for you during that time versus now?
I think I really enjoyed playing football like Pee Wee. And it was honestly just as simple as me running around with blatant disregard for anything or anyone else, and it's just me out there running as hard as I can, as fast as I can, just to sack the quarterback. I played defensive end in Pee Wee, and I had a tremendous amount of fun, mostly because no one could stop me, and it was just a lot of fun. And as I've gotten older, I think the joy of the games more turned into what type of teams are we on, or what type of teams am I being with, or what type of teams do I get to participate in that put their work and effort collectively together to make something shake.
When you were younger, did you always have this dream of wanting to compete at the SEC or NFL level, or did that change at some point for you?
It didn't really click until I got in high school, and then once I got to college, it was like, well, you have the potential, you have the ability to. Why not? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm wrong if I don't capitalize on the opportunity that I've been given with the skills and the knowledge and the ability that I possess. Right. So now it's a situation where like I need to live up to what I can do to the best of my ability and to do all I can within that ability. So again, like my whole goal for the NFL was never to make a lifelong career out of the NFL. It's still simply to do it as long as I can, as best as I can, to take the experience of it and transfer that down to lower levels and to teach them these things that will make them successful at that level. Because if I can teach you how to do these things now, you will be a much more successful human. I'm trying to teach you principles that are going to help you succeed. And I know what the top looks like because I've been there. And I know what the top of your next ladder looks like because I've been there. So
I think there's to your point of being able to do this, giving having God-given talent to be able to utilize it to the best of your ability. There's also the other thing that I'm thinking about. I think there are a lot of athletes who sometimes don't understand all of the nuances that go into playing at the highest level, specifically with the different changes and adjustments that you have to make. So as you've navigated this space of football all the way from little league to the highest level, navigating injuries, different coaches, different players, what has been the hardest adjustment or transition for you in your career?
biggest challenge is learning how to adapt to something new happening. Some players are very fortunate to have no real significant structural change when they're playing. For any athlete at the college experience, it's very rare. And so, a large problem you see with high school athletes going into college is that they will go into a situation and it changes, and there's no telling which what's going to happen from it. A new coach comes in or a new system comes in. You got to catch on to it. So, the best advice I can give for athletes who are going through those changes is to fall back on the fundamentals.
And for those athletes that might be in high school who want to play at that high level, what happens if you don't adapt quickly?
What I would tell that high school athlete is I need you to go to a school that actually cares about you and your growth as an individual. You're going to run into a situation where they will just move on to the next person if you do not catch on. Some places will give you time, some places will not give you time. It's case to case. So I would strongly advise them to find a coach who actually cares about their development, even if the circumstances aren't great. There are people in this world who, if they had the money, they would happily give you every penny they could to help you succeed. And there are some coaches out there who would happily give the shirt off their back just to help you succeed because they care so much about you, the person. I would say that matters more than you going to a prestigious university.
That's one of the things that I talk to a lot of the athletes that I work with is being able to be resilient, having resilience and what that looks like. And I think that in my experiences, just seeing some of the youth sports in high school sports, it's, the athlete wants X, Y, and Z, but they haven't been able to adapt to the circumstances, a new coach change, new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, et cetera, which I do see a lot of athletes who struggle trying to make that sort of transition because, in little league, it's kind of, to me, I always looked at a little bit of a free for all. You're learning, you're getting the feel of the game. And then as you go up, it's like, okay, now you really have to lock in. So transitioning, talking more about the mental side of things, mental health has been just this growing conversation over the past several years, which is important. But in recent years, there's also been maybe some gaps. For you specifically, I know you talked a little bit about going through a little bit of a struggle for yourself as far as losing somebody in your life. Can you speak a little bit about what that was like?
I was raised by my grandparents. My mother, for most of her life, did not raise me. I still have my mother in my life, just not as present as I see many other athletes have as well. My grandparents, once they turned 18, they had instructed me and advised me in such a way where they knew that I knew that there is a time for us to let go. We have raised you to the best of our ability, and now we're going to send you into the world. And our hope is that you rely on the teachings and wisdom we've tried to give you to make the best choices possible. Um, they also told me, like, we know you're going to make your own mistakes. We know you're also going to go against things we wish you would not do, but you're your own person and we trust you and we love you and we expect you to do what's best. So when I lost my grandparents and eventually my mother, there's nothing you can do to fill the void that the person left. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do, nothing you can say, nothing you can act on that's going to fill the void that you feel. And I'm not saying I've tried to, I'm just acknowledging what I felt, that there is nothing to replace that loss. There's nothing I can do. There's no substance you could take. There's no thing you can grab that's going to fill it. There's nothing. When I went through these situations, the best thing I could do was think about how they did their part for me at the time. At this time I learned everything I was supposed to learn from them that they wanted to teach me. Um, is there more that could have been? Possibly, but what I have is what I need, and I can work with what I have. I do what I do because they gave me an opportunity to do it, and I find it disrespectful and dishonorable to waste away an opportunity that they made for me just because of my feeling. If I When I say my feeling, I mean like wallowing in XYZ, or why did this have to happen? Why me? The woe is me mentality. My grandmother, even when I was in high school and I'd get two meals because like I just wasn't enough because I'm sitting there working out a whole bunch and practicing and I just didn't have enough energy. So it's like I end up getting two meals and eating a lot of peanut butter and jam. I remember asking, it's like, why are y'all spending so much money on me? Like, we could be putting this money to something else. She's like, son, like, you don't get it right now, but there is something in you, and I want to give you the best opportunity I can. And the price does not matter because I know that there's something. You can't see what I see, but I know that there is. So trust me and do what you can do to the best of your ability. and don't worry about the rest. Where and the way I circle that back around is that every single person who's lost someone of importance, like when someone loves you that much and pours into you, they really just wanted what was best for you. And the best thing you can do to honor what they're doing or what they did for you is to live to the best, to the fullest of your extent. Um, Even my friend, I'll name drop him. His name's Eugene Asante. He played for the Miami Dolphins. He lost his father in the middle of our workouts. And I remember I was kind of, and to me, I felt like I was one of the only ones who could probably understand how he feels. And it's not my place to tell him how to feel, more so just to guide him on where he can go with it. Because again, I kind of told him the same things like, brother, your father loved you so much, and I know you know that. And so he would do extra reps because he wanted to honor his father. And I would sit there and I'd let him cry, and I'd cry with him because that's the grieving. Like we need to do this, and it's perfectly fine to cry about this. You're not any less of a man or any less of a woman or any less of a person because you feel the loss of someone you love deeply. Doesn't make you any less than. Honestly, it's harder to acknowledge that. So it should highlight the strength of your character to even acknowledge that.
I like what you said there, finding purpose in the meaning of all of it in a positive way. But I can't help but to ask, so you lost your grandparents in high school and then your mom when you were in college. What kind of grieving process did you go through? And did it have any sort of impact on your overall performance as an athlete?
I'd say the loss of my grandfather was a lot less. It didn't hit as deep. Not that I didn't love my grandfather any less, but it was kind of this understood thing that he's a man, I'm a man. He's raised me the best he could as a man, and I love him and I respect him, and it was his time to go. When my mother died, it was a lot more confusing for me because it's just like, golly, man, it's like, how come there are older people who still have their parents, and here I am young and don't have my mother, right? Even though this guy's like 60 or 50 and he's got his parents, or this lady has her parents and she's 70, it's like, gosh, man, well, like, how come I got this one? So you're saying finding purpose. I strongly I have a strong faith in Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and to that extent, it's like you sit there and ask God, God, why me? Again, but I said, sometimes I sit there and ponder that question, but I kind of fall back to this, like, we don't ever have any recollection of Jesus saying, God, why me? Right? Why do I have to die for everyone else? It's like, well, it's hard to imagine that because you don't think about it that way. And I talked to a gentleman earlier today just about how everyone is so uniquely equipped to handle their situation or to help somebody else. If my mother had not died at the time she did, I would not have been able to help my friend when he needed me the most, when his father died. When I got waived from the Las Vegas Raiders. If I had not been waived from the Raiders, I would not have been able to help one of my best friends who got let go from another team in his time of need. I wouldn't have been able to help him if I hadn't gone through it. So I'll just be honest. I was upset when I was upset. I was really upset. I cried like a baby. I was upset when I got let go. But I praise God through it. I said, Lord, you know this is for my good. I may not see it right now, but I trust your judgment because I always see it later, and you have a plan that I can't see because you know things I don't know. It's all going to be fine.
I appreciate the passion in which you speak about your faith because it does mean so much to you. And I find that, I've talked to other people who live by their faith, everything that they do by their faith, but then there are times where it's just kind of questioning. And you mentioned earlier, just kind of confused once your mom did pass away and you were, why me? Why this? Why that? There was a quote that I read and I'm paraphrasing it, but it was along the lines of sometimes things are taken away from us to teach us a lesson that we haven't yet learned. And so, in your journey, not only losing your grandparents, losing your mom, and then the adversity that you've had to overcome with playing at the highest level, what is the number one thing that you've learned about yourself during the phase of when your mom passed away?
Probably the same thing that my grandmother told me before she passed away. One of the things that stuck out to me the most was that what she told me before she passed was, hey, stick with God as long as you can and don't let go. Because when I die, you won't have me, but you'll still have God. And I really reflected on that. and I still do. So like when my mother had died, it's like the best thing I can do is stick with God because I don't know what else to do. I don't have anything else right now, and God's never let me down. There's never been anything He's allowed me to go through that's destroyed me.
So in addition to your faith, how is, because I'd imagine just being in the space of athletics at the highest level, the mental health. Some athletes lean more on their faith. Some athletes lean more on, say, a clinician, sports psychologist, etc. Do you think there are still some missing pieces in those spaces when it comes to athletes seeking out mental health? And if so, what sort of things would you like to see change so that athletes got the mental health support that they needed?
I think I think a good amount of places probably do provide it. However, um, I think faith is important, but I also think the practical side of you doing and working with the people is just as important as you relying on a faith or you leaning in on what you believe in. What I'd like to see happen in the athletic space is I think it should be a lot more integrated, just as accessible as a strength training room, just as accessible as a cafeteria, just as accessible as a library, tutoring. It should be just as accessible where it's like, no, there is a clear place to go the moment you want to talk to somebody. And it should be very simple and very easy for you to go do that. I think if that can get more integrated, um, I think a lot of programs would find a lot more mentally healthy athletes. I do think that the college sphere does it wears on the athletes just flat out. It wears on the athletes, and a lot of them do rely on going home or talking to someone that they love. That's a strong method that they use to help cope, right? Because no matter how you slice the cake, you're going to have to cope with what you're doing somehow. I don't see why we should not use skilled people who are very good at what they do integrated into the programs.
As I think about it too, I think about it from the perspective of there's that physical aspect of the game that's so essential, but I feel like there's the nuances of the mental game or the mental health, etc., aren't necessarily as quantifiable. So you can go out and run a 40-yard dash and we got time on it. You can go in the weight room and bench press, squat, and we've got numbers on it. But when it comes to the mental health aspect, it's like, okay, is this athlete really gaining any sort of value out of going to see a sports psychologist, therapist, etc.? But the one thing that I always bring up is being able to focus and navigate the different shift changes during competition is part of mental health, because if you are not, or if one is not resilient enough to be able to come back after throwing an interception, fumbling the ball, being able to navigate regulating emotions during competition, then you don't have a holistic athlete at that point. You just have the athlete who, yeah, we got the physical side of things, but the mental part of it is just not there. And I was similar as well when I was competing. Is I had so much anxiety and it manifested in injuries. I was constantly injured. And knowing what I know now, I wish I would have had somebody to talk to navigate these things, because I didn't know what to do with the anxiety other than to isolate and show it in anger, which is not always healthy. For anybody who's listening or watching this episode, what is the one key takeaway that you want them to leave with that they can begin to implement in their own life?
I think the first thing and the most important thing that they need to take is that you should not tackle the entirety of everything you are doing alone. Don't do it alone. And you won't be as successful if you try to tackle everything by yourself. Really good organizations and really good teams normally have a small group of people who are very mindful about their teammates, what their teammates are going through, and how they cover and help their teammates.
That's something we talk about in the clinical space as far as people being hyper independent, not wanting to ask for help. And sometimes it can be not for everybody, but from what I've seen, just a trauma response, not being able to trust, not being able to believe in other people that do have the ability to help us in ways that we all have blind spots. We do. And being able to reach out to ask, hey, can you help me with this? Can you get me in the right direction? Is vulnerable, because what happens if the other person's like, no, man, I don't want to help you. Like it's vulnerable. The last question I want to ask for you as a person, we'll just remove football from the equation of things. What's one thing that you would like people to know about you that is sometimes misunderstood?
I would say for anyone who's curious about me, it's like, hey, I really do care and I really do want you to succeed. And I'm not going to just throw whatever we're doing to the side because I'm not happy or the idea is not working. And I try to make sure everyone's seen and that they're heard and that they know that I care about the person. And please forgive my excitability and ideas and the spokes that spin.
I hear curious, caring, and passionate in what you just said there. And I mean, I think in a lot of our experiences, when we do have a lot of passion, when we do care deeply about the people we're sitting across, we're just like, we're fired up for them with whatever sort of idea that they're bringing to us or helping them out. Because at the end of the day, kind of like what you said, being able to see other people thrive, it's so fulfilling. There is enough to go around. As contradicting as sometimes it may seem when we hear different messages, there is enough to go around for all of us. And I think there are times where our society sometimes has made us believe that we have to be selfish over everything. And so I'm thankful just for you and spreading your message and spreading your story while also caring for other people, because I think I can just hear the passion, in our first conversation. I could hear the passion. You were deeply curious about a lot of things, which I can get on board with that because I'm curious too. I will ask a million questions and people be like, dang, like, are you done yet? I'm like, no, I,
No,
I
I'm
got I
not,
got
I'm
20
not
more.
done. I'm
I got
not
20
done.
more questions left. Um, so what's next for you, Wesley? What's on the radar for the future?
I love business and I love sharing ideas and I love sharing new things I learned and I love seeing people be successful. So recently I've had a lot of time at Auburn University and I've had a lot of fun being able to pour into the young men on the Auburn football team about the things I've learned about business and just helping them expand their vision and just show them more that there's more, there's so much more possible. And so, between me doing that, me training, me taking care of myself, I've also been working on how do I properly set myself up to mentor people, specifically high school athletes. So that's what I've been working on.
Wesley, where can people find you?
If you want to find me or contact me, it's mainly Instagram. It's ya boy West. It's ya boy is all one word. ITSYABOI underscore WES, and that's me personally. If you're listening and you're interested and want to contact me or contact Kendrick, obviously I think you'll probably contact Kendrick before you'll contact me. But find me on Instagram and DM me and just shoot me a message just to check in with me, and I'll help you out. Well, not just an athlete thing. This is a family thing. I want to teach and help educate the families, teach all about NIL, teach all about how to be how to grow your brand professionally, how to capitalize on the NIL that you're going to be walking into, and how to get your scholarship. It's hard to kind of get a hold of NIL unless you're actually out here on a college team. So my goal is to also make sure help you do the right things to help get your college scholarships, and especially aiming at the D1 level because why not hit the D1 level? You're already right there.
Yeah.
So um, I think I want to share with you because I'm going to take everything I've learned from my time in the NFL so far, all my time in college, which I spent 4 years at Auburn, 1 year at Washington State. So, I got to see a lot of different teams, so to speak. I really never had the same team at Auburn. So I got to see a lot of different teams, what works, what doesn't work, all that fun stuff.
I love that for you. And I love, again, everything that you're doing with the people around you. So, again, I appreciate you coming on to Coats in Conversation and sharing what your experiences have been.
Kendrick, I appreciate you even have allowed me to be here. So you're very special and you're very blessed because you're using your platform that you are using to talk about things that genuinely have been an interest on your heart. And I appreciate you doing this because it's better for us to do it together than just do it all alone. So I'm appreciative that you thought me worthy enough to be on your podcast and to use my voice on your platform. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.